There comes a moment in every life when the mirror begins asking questions no one else can answer. Not whether you are beautiful enough, accomplished enough, or acceptable enough, but whether the person staring back at you is truly the one you were born to become. Many of us spend years learning how to disappear without ever leaving the room. We soften our voices so they do not sound too certain. We silence our dreams so they do not seem too ambitious. We dim our brilliance because someone once called it intimidating. We fold ourselves into smaller and smaller versions until one day we wonder why life feels so empty when we have given so much of ourselves away. The world has always had an appetite for people who apologize for existing. It rewards those who remain quiet when they have something worth saying, those who doubt themselves before anyone else has the chance to, and those who mistake shrinking for kindness. But there is a dangerous bargain hidden inside that habit. Every piece of yourself you abandon to make another person comfortable becomes a piece of your future that can no longer recognize you. Think about how often you have measured your worth against someone else's comfort. How many opportunities have you declined because you feared being seen as too confident? How many times have you hidden your intelligence because you did not want others to feel inadequate? How often have you smiled through disrespect simply to keep the peace? These moments seem small when they happen, but together they become a lifetime of quiet surrender. The tragedy is not that the world asked you to become smaller. The tragedy is believing that it had the right to ask. You were never created to live as an apology. Your laughter was not meant to be whispered. Your ideas were not meant to remain trapped behind hesitation. Your presence was never intended to be edited until it fit neatly inside someone else's expectations. Every soul enters this world carrying a unique rhythm, and the greatest loss is not failing to impress others. It is forgetting the sound of your own voice beneath the noise of everyone else's opinions. Today is not about learning how to become someone new. It is about remembering the person you stopped allowing yourself to be. It is about reclaiming the space you surrendered, the confidence you buried, and the truth you learned to hide. Because the moment you stop making yourself smaller for people who cannot celebrate your fullness is the moment your real life begins. Not the life built on acceptance, but the life built on freedom. There is a quiet lesson many people learn long before they are old enough to question it. They discover that approval often comes at a price. A child is praised for being quiet instead of curious, agreeable instead of honest, invisible instead of expressive. Over time, this lesson settles deep within the heart, teaching that love must be earned by becoming smaller, softer, and less demanding. Yet no human being enters this world carrying an apology in their hands. Every life begins with an undeniable declaration of existence. Before anyone tells you who you should be, you already belong here. Your voice, your thoughts, your dreams, and your presence are not mistakes waiting to be corrected. They are evidence that your life has meaning beyond the opinions of those who witness it. The greatest deception society often whispers is that your worth depends upon how comfortable you make other people feel. If your confidence unsettles someone, lower your head. If your ambition challenges expectations, reduce your dreams. If your truth disrupts familiar stories, remain silent. But comfort has never been the measure of truth. History itself is filled with voices that were once considered inconvenient simply because they refused to disappear. Every meaningful change began with someone who chose authenticity over acceptance, someone who valued integrity more than applause. To exist fully is not an act of arrogance. It is an act of courage. It means allowing yourself to occupy the space your life naturally requires without constantly calculating whether your presence is too much. It means speaking with honesty instead of rehearsing words that will offend no one. It means embracing your gifts without disguising them to protect fragile expectations. There is profound dignity in standing where you are without asking permission to belong. The earth beneath your feet does not question whether you deserve to stand upon it. The sky does not demand that you earn the right to breathe its air. Nature itself offers a quiet reminder that existence is not a privilege granted by others, but a reality woven into every living soul. Many people mistake humility for self-erasure. They believe that diminishing themselves is evidence of kindness or maturity. Genuine humility, however, is not pretending to be less than you are. It is seeing yourself clearly, neither exaggerating your importance nor denying your value. A person who recognizes their own worth can celebrate the strengths of others without feeling threatened, because confidence does not compete. It simply exists. The moment you stop apologizing for taking up space, something remarkable begins to happen within you. Decisions become clearer because they are no longer filtered through fear of rejection. Relationships become more honest because they are built upon truth instead of performance. Your creativity expands because it is no longer imprisoned by self-consciousness. Even your failures lose their power to define you because your value no longer depends upon perfection or approval. You begin to understand that your existence carries its own quiet authority, one that cannot be given by applause or taken away by criticism. The deepest freedom arrives when you finally believe that your life needs no apology, no justification, and no permission to shine with the fullness it was always meant to embody. Every time you silence a part of yourself to gain acceptance, you make a trade that feels harmless in the moment, but becomes costly over time. It rarely happens all at once. It begins with a sentence you choose not to speak, a dream you decide not to pursue, or a boundary you refuse to set because you fear disappointing someone. These choices seem small, almost invisible, yet they accumulate like tiny cracks in the foundation of a house. One crack may not seem dangerous, but enough of them can weaken the entire structure. In the same way, every act of self-erasure slowly distances you from the person you were meant to become. The most painful losses are often the ones that happen quietly. You may still smile, fulfill responsibilities, and appear successful to the outside world, but inside, something begins to fade. Your enthusiasm becomes caution. Your confidence becomes hesitation. Your curiosity becomes silence. You stop asking yourself what you truly want because you have spent so much time asking what everyone else expects. Without realizing it, your identity becomes shaped more by other people's comfort than by your own convictions. The tragedy is not simply that you hide your gifts. It is that you eventually forget they were ever yours. There is a profound loneliness that comes from living as a version of yourself designed for approval. Even when people admire you, the admiration feels incomplete because it is directed toward the mask rather than the person beneath it. You receive praise, yet it never satisfies. You are accepted, yet you never feel fully known. This is the silent cost of pretending. You cannot experience the joy of being loved for who you are if you have spent years ensuring no one ever meets that person. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. It tells you that staying small is practical, that remaining quiet will protect your peace, and that avoiding attention will keep you safe. While caution has its place, a life ruled entirely by fear becomes a prison with invisible walls. Every opportunity you avoid because you doubt your worth strengthens the belief that you were never capable in the first place. Every dream abandoned reinforces the illusion that your desires are too much. Over time, fear transforms from a passing emotion into an identity, convincing you that limitation is simply who you are. The heart, however, remembers what the mind has tried to forget. It continues to whisper through moments of restlessness, dissatisfaction, and longing. It reminds you that there is more within you than the world has seen. That quiet ache you sometimes feel is not failure. It is the voice of your authentic self asking to be heard again. It is the part of you that refuses to believe your purpose was merely to survive unnoticed. Healing begins the moment you recognize that you have been disappearing from your own life. Awareness is the first act of return. You begin to question the habits that kept you hidden and the beliefs that convinced you your worth depended on pleasing others. With each honest decision, each boundary spoken without apology, and each dream embraced without shame, you reclaim another piece of yourself. The person you thought was lost has not vanished. They have simply been waiting beneath years of compromise, ready to rise the moment you choose authenticity over acceptance, truth over performance, and wholeness over the exhausting habit of becoming smaller for the comfort of those who were never meant to define your value. Courage is often imagined as something loud, dramatic, and impossible to miss. But some of the bravest moments in life happen without applause. They happen when you finally decide to stop asking permission to be yourself. They happen when you speak your truth, even though your voice trembles. When you pursue a dream despite the certainty that someone will misunderstand you. And when you choose authenticity over approval. The courage to occupy your own space is not about demanding attention or proving your importance. It is about refusing to disappear simply because your existence makes someone else uncomfortable. It is the quiet decision to stand where life has placed you without shrinking, apologizing, or pretending to be less than you are. Many people spend years believing they must earn the right to be seen. They wait until they are more successful, more attractive, more knowledgeable, or more confident before allowing themselves to take up space. Yet confidence does not arrive as a reward for perfection. It grows through action. It is built every time you choose to show up as your whole self, even while carrying uncertainty. Waiting until you feel completely fearless means waiting forever, because courage has never required the absence of fear. It simply asks that fear no longer be the one making your decisions. There is a difference between being visible and being present. A person can fill a room with words, yet never reveal what truly matters. Another may speak only a few sentences, but every word carries honesty because it comes from a place untouched by performance. Occupying your own space means allowing your presence to reflect your deepest values instead of your deepest insecurities. It means trusting that your perspective has value. Your experiences have meaning, and your voice deserves to exist alongside every other voice. You do not have to become someone louder than you are. You simply have to stop silencing the person you already are. The world will always offer reasons to doubt yourself. Some people will question your ambitions because they abandoned their own. Others will criticize your confidence because it reminds them of what they have not yet discovered within themselves. Their reactions are reflections of their journeys, not verdicts on your worth. If you build your identity upon the changing opinions of others, you will spend your life constantly rebuilding. But when your identity is rooted in truth, criticism may shake you, yet it cannot erase you. Every person carries gifts that were never meant to remain hidden. Your creativity, compassion, intelligence, resilience, and imagination were not placed within you to live quietly beneath fear. They become meaningful only when expressed. A song locked inside the heart is never heard. A story left untold never reaches the person who needed it. A talent buried beneath self-doubt serves no one. The world is shaped by those who are willing to contribute what only they can give, even when they cannot guarantee acceptance. Occupying your own space also requires boundaries. It means recognizing that protecting your peace is not selfish, and that saying no to what diminishes you allows you to say yes to what strengthens you. It means refusing to reduce your dreams so others can feel larger, refusing to hide your light because someone prefers darkness, and refusing to abandon your identity in exchange for temporary approval. There is profound freedom in realizing that your life was never meant to fit inside the expectations of people who cannot imagine the fullness of who you are. The moment you embrace your place in this world without apology, you stop living as a guest in your own life and begin walking with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they have always belonged. One of the heaviest burdens people carry is the belief that they are responsible for managing the emotions of everyone around them. They learn to monitor every word before speaking, soften every opinion before expressing it, and dilute every success before celebrating it. They become caretakers of other people's discomfort, believing that peace can only exist if they remain small enough not to disturb anyone. Yet this is a responsibility that was never yours to carry. Every individual is responsible for their own fears, insecurities, and reactions. You can choose kindness, compassion, and respect, but you cannot build your life around protecting others from the reality of who you are. There will always be people who feel unsettled by authenticity because it reminds them of the parts of themselves they have ignored. Confidence can make the insecure uncomfortable. Honesty can challenge those who hide behind appearances. Ambition can expose those who have settled for less than they truly wanted. None of this means that confidence is wrong. Honesty is harmful. or ambition is selfish. Sometimes the light that shines from one person simply reveals the darkness another has refused to confront. That discomfort belongs to the one experiencing it, not to the one living truthfully. Too often, people mistake another person's reaction for a measure of their own character. If someone is offended by a boundary, they assume the boundary must be unfair. If someone feels threatened by their success, they begin apologizing for achieving their goals. If someone criticizes their individuality, they start reshaping themselves to fit expectations that were never designed for their happiness. This pattern slowly transforms a vibrant spirit into one that constantly seeks permission to exist. The more you adjust yourself to calm every passing storm, the less you recognize the landscape of your own soul. Empathy is a beautiful quality, but empathy without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. It is possible to understand another person's struggles without making them your identity. It is possible to listen with compassion without accepting blame for emotions you did not create. You are not called to rescue every wounded heart at the expense of your own. There is wisdom in offering kindness while refusing to sacrifice your truth. Genuine love never requires you to erase yourself so someone else can remain comfortable. Healthy relationships grow stronger when both people are free to be fully themselves rather than constantly performing roles that keep conflict hidden. Many people carry invisible expectations into every room. They expect others to think, speak, and behave according to familiar patterns. When someone breaks those patterns by living with confidence, authenticity, or independence, discomfort naturally arises. Change has always unsettled those who cling tightly to certainty, but growth has never been possible without discomfort. If every meaningful decision in your life depends on avoiding someone else's uneasiness, your future will become a prison built from other people's expectations rather than your own convictions. Freedom begins when you stop interpreting every negative reaction as a sign that you have done something wrong. Sometimes criticism is simply evidence that you have chosen a different path. Sometimes rejection is proof that you have refused to betray yourself. Sometimes misunderstanding is the inevitable cost of living honestly in a world that often rewards conformity. You cannot control how others receive your truth, but you can control whether you continue living it with integrity. The most peaceful life is not one where everyone approves of you. It is one where your conscience is clear because you have honored your values without diminishing yourself to satisfy fears that never belonged to you. When you release the impossible task of carrying other people's emotional burdens, you make room for something far more valuable. The quiet confidence of knowing that your purpose is not to manage every reaction you inspired, but to live so faithfully that your own soul no longer has to ask permission to breathe, to grow, or to be fully seen. There comes a defining moment when you must choose between the life that pleases everyone else and the life that feels true to your own spirit. At first, the difference between the two can seem almost invisible. You continue following familiar expectations, making practical decisions, and saying yes to the paths that earn approval. From the outside, everything appears successful, yet something within you remains restless. That quiet unrest is not a sign of failure. It is the voice of your soul reminding you that survival is not the same as fulfillment. A life shaped entirely by the expectations of others may appear complete, but it will always feel unfinished because it was never built from your own truth. Every person arrives in this world carrying gifts that cannot be duplicated. Your perspective, your imagination, your resilience, and your capacity to love are unlike anyone else's. These qualities are not accidents. They are invitations to live in a way that reflects who you genuinely are. When you spend your energy becoming the version of yourself that others find easiest to accept, those gifts remain hidden beneath layers of compromise. The world loses something irreplaceable each time a person abandons their authentic nature in exchange for approval. Authenticity is not simply a personal achievement. It is a contribution that enriches everyone fortunate enough to witness it. The expectations of others are constantly changing. One season they may encourage you to be bold, and the next they may criticize you for standing out. If your identity depends upon meeting those expectations, you will spend your life chasing a destination that never stays in one place. True peace comes from building your life upon values that remain steady regardless of changing opinions. Integrity, compassion, courage, curiosity, and honesty become anchors that keep you grounded even when the winds of criticism begin to rise. A soul rooted in its own convictions does not need constant applause because it already knows where it stands. Living a life that fits your soul does not mean every decision becomes easy. There will be moments when choosing yourself requires walking away from relationships that no longer honor your growth. There will be opportunities you decline because success without purpose feels empty. There will be seasons of uncertainty when your path looks unfamiliar even to those who love you. Yet there is a remarkable strength that emerges when your choices are guided by truth instead of fear. Difficult roads become more bearable when they lead toward a life that genuinely belongs to you. Many people confuse acceptance with belonging. Acceptance depends on conditions. It asks you to meet certain expectations before offering approval. Belonging is different. It begins the moment you stop negotiating with your own identity. You belong wherever you are willing to arrive as your whole self without disguising your values or hiding your dreams. The people who truly deserve a place in your life will not require you to become smaller before they make room for you. They will celebrate the fullness of who you are because genuine connection grows through honesty rather than performance. The most extraordinary lives are rarely the ones that follow predictable scripts. They are shaped by individuals who trusted the quiet wisdom within themselves even when the world suggested another direction. They understood that purpose cannot be borrowed, identity cannot be copied, and fulfillment cannot be found by living someone else's vision. Every day offers another opportunity to choose authenticity over imitation, courage over comfort, and truth over approval. The greatest legacy you can leave is not a life that impressed the most people, but a life that remained faithful to the person you were created to become, refusing to trade the richness of your own soul for the temporary satisfaction of fitting inside expectations that were never meant to define your destiny.